For today's 12 days of tutorials, I used the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. Okay, who remembers this palette? Because this is, I think, 5 or 6 years old at this point. But pretty much every year when I post the voting form for this palette wins in the Urban Decay category. So of course I did a look with it today. For my brushes today, I did use my Sigma Favorites brush set that has all of my go-to eyeshadow brushes in it. As always, everything I use today will be linked down below. So let's get started with this eye look. To be honest, I really only keep this palette in my collection for you guys because I know that this always gets so many votes for my 12 days of tutorials. And I was sitting here looking at all the shades, and I gotta say, I feel like if this palette launched now, it would do really well because there are a lot of colors in here, but I would say a lot of the colors are pretty muted and wearable. And I do have a handful of looks with this palette already on my channel, so I'll link those down below if you want to check them out. But today I am thinking of doing something pretty neutral leaning. I also wanted to mention that I used a different eye primer today. I actually used the Anastasia eye primer because I got this little mini with the purchase. I've been using the Urban Decay primer potion quite a bit, but I feel like it's drying out on me, so I wanted to try something new. And when I applied the Anastasia one, I was pretty impressed by how thin the formula felt on my skin, so I'm excited to see how the shadows look on top of this. And I did set down this primer with a translucent powder. And for my brush set today, I will be using my Sigma Favorites brush set. I'm gonna start with the shade Riff on my crease brush. So I have that shade on the tip of my brush like that, and I'm gonna blend that throughout my entire crease. If you still own this palette, let me know down below in the comments. I really want to know how many of you guys still have this one. I really wish Urban Decay came out with more palettes in this kind of format instead of like the typical naked stuff we see. I just love the size of the pans in this palette, and I do feel like the formula is even better than the naked formula that we know. I did dip back into this shadow, and I am going to build up this shade more in my crease. Now I'm going to take the shade Weekender on the same brush, and I just have the shade on the very tip of my brush, and I'm going to use that to soften around the edges of Riff, mostly just right under my brow. I picked up more Riff again on the same brush, but now I'm using more of the flat side of it, and I'm going to add that to the outer part of my lid. And like I said, I'm using the brushes from my Sigma brush set today, and this is my #1 eyeshadow brush. Like, if someone was completely new to eyeshadow, didn't know what to do, and they were like, Angela, I need one brush, this is the brush. I just feel like I can do so many different things with this brush. It is so versatile. And now I'm going to take whatever was left on that right in this inner part of my lid. I've really been into this kind of soft halo eye recently, where I do deepen up the inner and outer corner, but I do keep the outer corner a little bit darker than the inner corner. I don't know if it's my eye primer or these shadows, but my lid is looking just very smooth right now. I'm super happy with this. Again, I'm still using the same brush, and I'm going to pick up the shade Double Life. And I'm going to use just a little bit of this to deepen up the outer and inner corner. And this does have a shimmer to it, so we'll see how this looks. Like I said, I do want to go for something a bit softer today. Ooh, okay, that's actually looking pretty good, and it's not looking too shimmery or anything. And then just adding a tiny bit in the inner part. Now I'm going to take the E57 in my brush set. It is kind of a lid brush in the shade Stranded. And I'm going to pop that in the center of my lid where it's blank. And then I am going to kind of feather out those edges towards the outer and inner corner. Again, I'm just going for a really soft halo today. Let's see if I can add a little bit with my finger and see what that does. There we go. It did intensify it quite a bit. And I'm just going to go back to my E25 and just do a very soft blend right here in the crease. I went ahead and did my under eye concealer off camera, and now let's do the lower lash line. Now I've actually been getting a lot of questions and comments about the lower lash line recently, so I wanted to kind of go over just like a couple things really quick. Just this morning I was reading a comment and someone asked if I could do a look with no shadow on the lower lash line at all and do just mascara, and in my opinion that just wouldn't make the eye look complete. The only times I like to do nothing on the lower lash line is if I'm doing just like a winged liner look, like just straight a winged liner and maybe some bronzer in my crease or just like a really light shade on my lid. Or if I'm doing just a very natural everyday look with just bronzer, like one shade that's super soft in my crease, at that point I feel comfortable not doing anything on my lower lash line. But for an eye look like this where, you know, I have multiple shades on my eyelid and in my crease, it's just gonna look really funny if I do nothing on the lower lash line. Another question I've been getting a lot recently is just how to not make the lower lash line so smoky and how to keep it nice and clean and precise. And I tell everyone this is that the best trick is to use a small brush. So for the lower lash line, I'm gonna use the E21. Again, this is in my brush set with Sigma. This is just a nice small detail brush that fits perfectly along the lower lash line, and it's not going to apply too much product where it's like smoking out way too far. And you can also use this brush to like do detail work on the inner and outer corner, kind of like what I did today, or even just like highlight the inner corner. So this is a great kind of small detail brush, and I reference it as the smudge brush. Now for my shadow for my lower lash line today, I was gonna put the shade Riff, just that nice brown shade in my lower lash line, but I thought that that would look a little too similar to the look I did with the Anastasia Soft Glam palette just the other day, so I wanted to do more of a purpley shade today. So I'm gonna take Hell Ride on that smudge brush, and I'm just gonna really stamp the shadow along my lower lash line, and I kind of go on top of my lower lashes. Like that's just the line that I'm following. And I do find that the shade is pretty soft, so I am gonna build this up. Another brush I love for the lower lash line is the E42, and this is just a small, firm blending brush. Here are what these two brushes look like next to each other. Like this is the perfect lower lash brush combo, and they are both in my brush set. So on this small, firm blending brush, I'm going to soften out this purpley shade. I'm just using the tip of the brush and blending that out. All right, and that is what the lower lash line looks like. So I hope that that helped out some of you guys who have been asking questions about that recently. Now I'm gonna take my Rare Beauty highlighter in Enlighten, and I'm gonna pop that in my inner corner. There is a light shade in this palette, but I didn't feel like it was light enough to be a highlight shade for me. I'm also gonna run a little bit of this nude liner in my waterline. This one is by Makeup Forever, and I like how this one just kind of brightens my waterline. It doesn't make it super white. It almost just kind of like cleans up the shadow that was on there. I went ahead and popped on my mascara and lashes, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Half Lash in Vivid. And this half lash is more of like a spiky half lash, and it is a pretty full half lash as well. And here's a final close-up of this eye look. All right, here is what the full face looks like. I keep wearing like hats and beanies in these videos because I'm just filming so frequently that I just cannot be bothered to do my hair right now. But on my lips, I'm wearing my usual lip combo, which is the Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Iconic Nude with the Make It by Mario Lip Plumping Serum in Nude Glow. So again, this is another older palette in my collection. I want to say it's 5 or 6 years old, but the shadows did apply really well, and especially for being Urban Decay's formula. Urban Decay just never has had my favorite formula, but I do prefer this formula compared to their like Naked Palettes ones. And I know that this look I did today isn't really revolutionary, but again, the point of all of these 12 days of tutorials are to inspire you to go through the palettes that are already in your collection, get some use out of them, and see what other shades you really have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.